Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Keem from the Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday. On Monday, Matt was joined by John Barron, who's joined us a few times on the podcast, so we were so excited to have him back. Matt and John got together to talk about the prospect process, and specifically a phrase that Matt uses all the time. This is to help a prospect make an educated and informed decision about his firm. Matt said when John first shared this term, he thought it was a punchline, but he said now it's become the entire soul of his prospect process. And this really came about from John looking at how the average person goes about consuming products and services in the marketplace. He said the typical person will go through a series of steps designed to do two things. One is to give them an education. They don't have to be an expert, but they have to be informed enough to make an educated decision. And the second is whether that item fits into their current plan and if they need to make a decision now. John said the idea behind a prospect process that works is that it takes your differentiating value, puts it front and center, and not just proposes that it ought to be something people care about, but that it gives them an education on why does that thing matter? Why is it valuable? He said that in the absence of being able to distinguish something an advisor does differently, your service just becomes a commodity, and then the decision is based on price and convenience. John also discussed removing the pressure that someone has to buy today. He said people assume the pressure is coming, and this gets in the way of their willingness to engage. So he said one of the secrets to moving someone along in your process is making the process, not your service, seem like it's worth doing, and that they aren't going to get pressured. You then make something safe for them. Matt said by calling out the elephant in the room, it not only makes it safe for the prospect, but for him as well, because then it removes that tension. Once he gets to the end of the call or meeting, he knows what's going to happen and what to tell the prospect. And with what he says, he's giving them permission to make a decision, which is something they already had the right to do. John said without that pressure, they're actually more likely to listen to what you have to say. Matt also brought up with hiring an advisor for prospect, it's almost a once-in-a-lifetime decision. So prospects don't really know what they should be looking at. They just know they want their financial future to allow them to do the things they want. So they'll work with you if their perception is that they have a better shot of that turnout by simply working with you. Your job as the advisor during this process is to give them what they need to come to that conclusion. For those looking to create this process, John said the first step is to identify the gap that you felt you could fill when you went into business. What is unique about you? The second is how do you educate your prospect that they need to care about that particular thing that makes you unique, where they appreciate the value of what you do. The third is how do you conduct that process in a way that you don't put them on the spot? Then, if you have those things, you can do the fourth thing, which is putting all of it together, which creates that process that the prospect will like, then that's safe for them. John said for a lot of people in the service industry, it's not so much what you do, but how you do it. Let's get into action items. Identify how you're operating in the marketplace that not everyone else is doing. Figure out how to educate people about this so that it becomes a part of their buying criteria. And how do you design this in a way that's easy and safe and gives them the time that they need to come to their own conclusion? On Thursday, Jamie dove into compensation for employees. She said the number one thing an employee should concentrate on in their organization is becoming indispensable. This is a great episode for team members as to the way that you can approach your employer about the compensation. And this is helpful to employers to understand their responsibility and how to handle these conversations as well. Jamie said that if you're a leader of an organization, you need to be having two appointments with your team members. One is on compensation and the other is on performance. And they shouldn't be the same meeting because a performance review shouldn't equal a pay raise. Those performance reviews are an opportunity to show where there's room for improvement and provide tools for those weaknesses. She took a moment to talk about your working environment and distractions during your day, especially if you're a remote worker sitting at your kitchen table and are constantly distracted by things. This isn't conducive to an environment where you're going to produce your best work. Even if you have a home office, make sure that you have rules around your availability, whether that means the door is closed, meaning do not interrupt, or door open, meaning that you're working, but you're not focused on deep work. So how can employees talk about compensation? Going back to what Jamie said when she started her episode, that employees need to focus on becoming indispensable, that you have to be able to do the work that you're assigned. Jamie likes to do compensation reviews in the spring. And if you're an employee looking to have a compensation review with your employer, you need to go over your work and make sure that you don't have these visions that you're worth more to the organization than you truly are. And a great way to do this is through a scorecard. team members also want to have a formal review so they know if they're on track or not. Here's something you shouldn't do if you're an employee looking to renegotiate your compensation. Don't get a bunch of market research as a reason for compensation increases, because Jamie said she'll then go and pull all the qualifications based on that salary that maybe you don't have. Instead, become indispensable. And if you're in a meeting where you're negotiating things immediately after, go and document that. Get it in writing between both parties so that you have a place to look at it and come back to what you both agreed upon. Jamie said that employees tend to provide her with a lot of accomplishments, which are great, but they leave off the things that they didn't do or things they need to improve on. So if you're planning on bringing a list as a part of your negotiation, then 1, you need to consider timing. And 2, don't bring market research unless you are fully competent. You can do what other people can do for that compensation you're looking for. And 3, don't bring a list of accomplishments unless it also includes your failures and shortcomings. Jamie likes for team members to say that they'd like to be earning X and ask what they need to show in the next 3 months for that to be achievable. And then they can work that out together. She said that if there's more money, there has to be more value. So if as an employee, you're looking to have these compensation conversations, you need to be providing more value. The work that you're going to get paid for with the salary increase is not because of the work that you did, but the work that you're going to do. She said this is a problem for a lot of team members because they look at all the things they've done and feel that they should be paid more for that. But that salary has already been agreed upon. So Jamie said if you want more compensation, then it's more value, and you need to remind your employer what you're giving them for that compensation. Let's get into action items. If you're a lead or a business owner, you need to schedule performance reviews and compensation reviews with every employee. Don't make them think that they need to come to you. If you're an employee, remember that timing is everything. If something bad has happened, whether with your own job or the company, don't go ask for a raise at that time. Also, don't do a bunch of market research unless you're confident you have all the skills and experience that the job is being published for. And if you bring your strengths, bring your weaknesses too, in areas that you need to improve on. Asking for future compensation means you're bringing more value. And if you don't know what the value is, look at the pain points. And lastly, for advisors, make sure that you're implementing email delegation and make sure that you have a clients at email address. Before we go, TBR Nation, if you're ready to grow and dramatically impact your life and those around you, and you want resources to help, reach out to us at lifestyle@theperfectra.com, or you can visit theperfectra.com/grow. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me, and please share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or team member who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.